Tired of the hassles and delays in managing your medical records? See how Pocket Health has transformed the experience for people like Maggie.
I would never go back, never, to having to call in advance or order up x-rays or MRI scans. You're in control of things. You're sending the records to who you want to send them to, when you want to.
Join Maggie and over 1.5 million other people who have taken control of their health with Pocket Health. Visit PocketHealth.com for faster, easier access to your records.
The Cheating Death podcast contains information, subject matter, and course material that may not be appropriate for all listeners. Viewer discretion is advised. We are many. You are but one. And welcome, Guten Tag, everyone. On today's episode of the Cheating Death podcast, we're going to go into detail about a couple of topics today. More specifically, on this holiday edition of the program, we're going to give you a little bit of advice on how to deal with some public speaking parameters and how to deal with some little bit of concern you may have when it comes to grabbing that microphone and speaking the words that your mind wants to put out. In addition to that, we're also going to go into detail about some of the differences in recording methods that some musicians back in the 80s and 90s versus today use. And of course, at the end of the program, we're going to provide a lovely, new, dark, alluring, trance-filled song by our host, the Cleric of Chaos. And it is called the South Vale Anthem, in tribute to Silent Hill 2. So stay tuned on today's program. All this and more on the Cheating Death podcast. And remember, we're pulling for you. We're all in this together. Before we get into today's program and dive deep into our delivery of content for your lovely ears, we'd like to ask kindly that you follow our friends of the program. Head on over to twitter.com/weallcheatdeath and check out the pinned post and follow all the lovely people that create the amazing content that lovely curates the lives we all share. And now, without further ado, let us get into today's program. Guten Tag, everyone. A lovely, joyous, outstandingly autumn morning upon us. Afternoon or evening, whenever you are choosing to listen to our fine program. Of course, it would not even be remotely the same without your ears consuming our content today. That said, friends, followers, everyone involved today, while you're relaxing and taking a moment to consume a coffee, maybe have yourself some ham or have yourself some turkey in addition to lovely desserts on this absolutely tremendous Columbus Day in America, Thanksgiving Day in Canada, we would like to thank you for taking a moment to listen to our fine program today and for being able to look yourself in the mirror and give yourself an opportunity to fight one more day. Now, the first thing that we are going to discuss is going to be one of the things that a lot of performers have a tendency to overlook when they are beginning their careers, when they are even looking into starting off. There are a lot of misconceptions as to how one handles the very concept of stage fright, how one handles the concept of concern when out on a public avenue, when one is trying to put forth opinions, thoughts, or feelings that are really special or really important to them, and they just can't find the right words to deliver it to an audience or to deliver it to a crowd, then by all means there will be some situations and circumstances where that may not always be the easiest thing to remember and to remind yourself of and to practice and to keep consistent. Today, we're going to give you a couple little small tips as to how to hopefully circumvent that. And if it does occur, give yourself a couple little quick breathers and identify how to get it to go away. Now, as most of you are aware, when it comes to stage fright, there are, as they say, levels to this. Generally speaking, stage fright begins when we are a child, when we are in primary or grammar school, or when we are performing, whether it be an artistic endeavor, an athletic endeavor, or, quite frankly, we just have to go and get ourselves a candy bar for the first time. All of these situations can be uniquely overwhelming and can ultimately provide you with some confusion as to how to deal with them going forward. You are not alone. These are situations to where most people will often find themselves second guessing, trying to come up with an idea or a solution that perfectly fits the puzzle, when all you need in that scenario 9 times out of 10 is just to be present. When we take a moment and when we listen to those around us and when we understand and we identify what that person is trying to convey or what they are trying to impress upon us, the message starts to become a little bit easier to decode. Now, that person may or may not have some difficulty in providing or delivering that communication, but how that person represents themselves, postures themselves, and presents the information is just as vital as the words that are used and how those words are delivered. Now, top 3 things that are, I won't say easy, but are some of the first things that will help make you a little bit calmer when you are ready to grab that microphone and speak in front of that audience. Number 3, when you step out onto that stage and you look at that crowd and you take that first deep breath, remember this. What is the worst they can do? Boo? Yell? Heckle you? Harass you in worst cases? Yes, these are all possibilities, and quite frankly, to some, these situations, these dreams, these events, these are some of the nightmares of people's late night endeavors, and quite frankly, we would be hard-pressed to advise you that this is a completely unavoidable and inevitable scenario that every performer has to deal with, but in reality, about 95% of people have had to deal with this. You know, you get your lucky stand-up comedians who have flown on by and somehow, some way have never received a jeer or a rotten tomato thrown at them in their lives. No, we're telling you, virtually everyone of success has received this at some point, and you are not alone. Your first step, when you acknowledge what you are feeling, is to look out upon that crowd and to remind yourself that they are human. As long as you can remember just how many people are in that crowd when you stare out upon the lights and from the stage you are trying to get your composure. Remember number 3. What's the worst they can do? Boo. Number 2. If you find yourself stuttering or stumbling over your words or having difficulty in delivering your message, as common as it sounds, as routine as it may be, the best step and the best approach to take is just to take a deep breath. Remind yourself that unless you are delivering a speech to the United Nations that is going to provide all countries in attendance on how to cure poverty within less than 30 seconds, unless it means the speaker's death, no one is going to immediately cause you strife, destruction, danger, based on anything that you say on a stage in a performative environment. Most people understand and can see just how concerning it is for people to be able to speak a sentence, let alone rehearse and perform a script. And number 1, of course, We all have faced this at some point, and that is how to handle technical difficulties when you have perfectly crafted and perfectly prepared a speech or you have perfectly prepared a presentation. Now, as we are well aware, in the year of our Lord 2025, there are a litany of things that can go wrong from a public speaking perspective, whether it be latency issues, if you are speaking from a laptop and a projector, or whether or not it's completely technical in the sense that the amplifier and or the half stack that you're using is from a 1972 high school band, and you got it on Carrot or Kijiji or Craigslist because you just decided that saving the $50 was a good idea. Technical glitches are the bane and the burden of us all, especially in the performative environment. It's one of the reasons why, if you are not part of a giant corporation or if you are not part of a massive marketing team that promotes and markets your music or your podcasts or your programs, like a Drake, like a Mark Maron, like a Christopher Titus, the list goes on and on and on, you will need to learn some technical skills yourself, and take it from us. It's very fun to learn. Sometimes execution may take a step or two, but hey, Nikola Tesla never got anything right in the first attempt, and he's probably one of the most beautiful people to have ever lived. So if you ever find yourself struggling with these areas, by all means, just remember, public speaking is another extension of yourself. It's another opportunity for you to share how beautiful you are. It's another amazing chance for you to deliver some of the experiences in life that you have had. So hopefully some of the other people on whom you are attempting to entertain and incite and inform will not have to go through some of the same mistakes that you did. And if they do, then it means that they're going to be a little bit better suited in dealing with those potential calamities. Advise yourself. Public speaking, performing, all of these things are absolutely beautiful when they are captured in a nutshell, but there are always idiosyncrasies, little differences that each person is going to bring to the stage, and you are capable of overcoming them all. Remember that when you are dealing with your first, second, thousandth, millionth stage performance or presentation. You are one of the most beautiful and strong souls for even making an attempt to create anything. So keep up the good work. It is vital to remind yourself that when you are engaging in public speaking and when you are preparing for a potential career in the entertainment industry, whether that be front-facing, you have a desire to be a principal actor, or you want to be a background performer, it's imperative to remind yourself that the casting directors and all the people involved, they face literally hundreds, if not thousands of people on a weekly basis, and you got to do something to make yourself stand out. Got to do something that brings about that hand of the royal flush in the game of life, because a lot in the entertainment sector involves luck. A lot of it involves right place, right time. You can be the most talented and the most gifted artist in the world, and it may take you 25 to 30 years to get noticed. Because in all actuality, you are one in 8 billion people. We all share this lovely, beautiful green and blue microcosm we call the Earth. And realistically, just because you don't make it right away doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have the power. A lot of experience and a lot of very seasoned professionals within the confines of the entertainment sector will indeed tell you, especially when it comes to casting calls, auditions, or presenting yourself to a potential music label, if you want to go the route of working within a UMG, or if you want to work with a Geffen Records, or if you want to work with a Reprise Records, or, any one of the literal thousands of labels that are out there, you ultimately have to do a little bit of research and decide which is going to be fitting and best to you, which is going to be conducive to your development and your career, your evolution as a performer. Because when you make the decision to go on a stage and spread your message or spread your songs, it's no longer just about you. It is about the message you share. It is about the attitude you convey. It is about the energy that you provide to the enthusiastic masses that are giving you an opportunity to take their time in a constructive way. We as artists, we are owed nothing. Everything that we do is for the people that choose to take the time to listen to us and who understand that the efforts and the multiple minutes, hours, months, years that we put into our work is so they can have an opportunity to relax, decompress, take a little bit of time away from the brutal reality in which consumes us all. But the entertainment sector is not something to where it is impenetrable. No. For you see, if this lovely host that you are listening to right now, the 180 centimeter, 66 kilogram, lean, mean, pristine destruction machine, is capable of still having a somewhat active career in the entertainment industry after working in this in music and acting and stage performance for about 25 years now, you can and will succeed regardless of how you choose to. Sometimes it just takes us a little bit longer to get to that summit of the mountain. But when you do, it does not necessarily mean that the view is going to be any less sweet. Speaking of experience, artists, and the evolution of one's performance and or ideas and or execution into their art, we're going to go into a little bit of detail about some of the older recording methods versus today's methods. Now, as most of you are aware, the Cleric of Chaos, your party host, your creator of calamity, he isn't the oldest tool in the garden shed, but he's also not the youngest fountain on Caesar's palace. So there is a little bit of experience of being halfway in between and being a man in his mid-30s that he can provide you with some unique insight as to how recording professionally used to be back when he first got his professional start at 12 and 13 versus how it is now. How almost homogenous it is, how borderline boilerplate it is, how we all look at recording as a very standard thing. We all log on to our computers. We look at our editing program, whether it be Ableton, whether we use some form of Adobe, or whether we look into using Sony Vegas, regardless of what editing platform or layering platform or creation platform you use, whether it be Magic Maker, whether it be Beat Lab, whether it be Pro Tools, it doesn't matter. It all comes from the same place. It all comes from the same desire nowadays. You want to make a beat. Sounds great. Get on it. How do you do that nowadays versus back in the day? Well, there's a little bit more option available as it pertains to today's recording as it used to be. Back when the Cleric started his recording and as a wee child performing little comedy bits and making sure that little segments like your favorite morning show back in the 80s and 90s had, just to bring some laughter and to bring some incitement and some lovely excitement to classmates, to fellow drama school enthusiasts, other people in whom just wanted to get a laugh out of their regular everyday school. We used to use the lovely Casio recording tapes from the 80s and 90s, the one that had the dual tape deck and the hi-fi recording equalizer. Oh boy, putting up the different levels on that manually while also trying to speak and record over an audio cassette was probably one of the more fun adventures that you could ever have, especially when it comes to rewinding that bad boy, playing it back, and listening to how silly you sound. Oh, goodness gracious. At the risk of sounding like old man yelling at cloud here, there's absolutely nothing that replaces trying to play an acoustic guitar and give a wacky voice on a good old-fashioned tape deck at 7:32 in the morning on a July day in the lovely era of 1998, 1999. So you got to look at yourself and you got to remind yourself, hey, you're not sitting on your porch grabbing a stereo and a boombox, shouting into the very low quality microphone. No, you have access to Pro Tools now. You have access to things that can make you sound as if you are a billionaire inside of a studio that is inside of an ivory tower, inside of a mansion, inside of a cave, inside of an island, inside of a completely desolate zone. You have so many capabilities available to you now. The ability to record, the ability to distribute, the ability to produce is staggeringly different. As evidenced going back to our lovely mention and our memory recall of the tape decks from the 80s and 90s, anyone who remembers the Sony mini discs that came out and were to serve as basically a hybrid between the standard tape cassettes and between regular CDs, compact discs, Those were absolute treasures for anyone who were looking to record comedy bits or looking to record segments using various sounds and effects on what we're going to call primordial soundboards, because every soundboard is digital now and is all based on computer. Very few nowadays outside of film studios or major podcasting or major music studios or major radio stations have a decent dedicated soundboard that actually contains clips that don't just come from a standard website. So when you take a look at the differences between standard cassettes and the mini disc cassettes, what made the mini disc cassettes extra special were that they were almost geared entirely for people to record voice and ambient sound. Was that their primary purpose in design? No, it was just an unintentional added benefit of when you were to try to record within a portable stereo, or if you were recording in an area that may or may not have had the best wind resistance. Mini discs, when you were using them for recording in a lot of ways, were the very, very first, let's just say, primordial Neanderthalic examples of noise cancellation that were provided in the music industry. And for those who recorded, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And especially when it came to the beginning and the genesis of early on-stage podcasting, a lot of people using not only their early computers, but also using their radios, using their personalities, their presentation, their enthusiasm, their charisma. All of that is gone now. You are able to download a program and make it do whatever you want to do, but the thing that it is not able to do is provide personality, energy, and flair. You click yourself on a YouTube video that has a description and has seemingly a generic YouTube title. 9 times out of 10, that bad boy's gonna be good old AI now. And some people enjoy the AI, others don't. But if you are one of those individuals in whom is a long-term artist who has been creating or producing for a while, and the evolution, the enhancement, the complete eradication of anything analog, anything that requires individual and independent thought, is very similar to those television commercials from back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, when you would have a rightfully pissed off Native American standing on a cliffside seeing development and crying and shedding a tear. And despite the fact that that commercial was a very, very corporate and intentionally branded product and market placement, the notion and the history is that that particular event more than likely happened multiple, if not hundreds of thousands of times. And we as artists, we are facing a time where almost all individuality is gone, where a program may try to emulate everything that you have done, or a program may try to replicate the efforts, the blood, the sweat, and the tears that you have put in. Don't ever let that take your pride. Don't ever let AI or let anyone who is an artificial intelligence enthusiast tell you that one day AI will be better than real human art. We're here to tell you that's not true. And whether it be the 80s recording methods of the 8 tracks and your hi-fi stereos, and even in some of your radio stations, how they would utilize records for recording and tapes of spindle strength, these large, heavy, almost film reel like recording pieces, gone, lost, never to be heard from again. So when you are recording on BandLab, or when you're recording on Ableton, or when you're recording using Sony Vegas, or you're using any one of the available Premiere collection suites, do yourself a favor. Hit up a yard sale. Grab yourself a tape deck and record yourself a 10-minute silly radio program. Listen back to it and give yourself a laugh. Because no matter how we evolve in recording, no matter how technological communication and how we share music and content evolves, there is nothing that artificial intelligence will be able to replace a good quality human soul and human connection with. You got this. You have dreams. You will succeed. Thank you for taking a moment of your life to listen to the Cheating Death podcast today. For more content, please follow twitter.com/weallcheatdeath and youtube.com/weallcheatdeath, and check out the pinned post on the We All Cheat Death Twitter to follow all of the lovely content creators and outstanding entertainment providers that you are able to shake a stick at. If you want a cameo from our host, the Cleric of Chaos, head on over to cameo.com/clericofchaos, buymeacoffee.com/clericofchaos, linktr.ee/clericofchaos for all merch. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, feedback, or you just want to leave us a review, head on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. And remember, at the end of the day, we're all going to be dead, so do your best to keep your head. We're pulling for you. We're all in this together. You can follow Jeff Littman at twitter.com/IcarusFell. You can follow the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast at twitter.com/DLovesWrestling. Pro Wrestle Times at twitter.com/ProWrestleTimes. Wrestling Soup at twitter.com/Wrestling Soup. Don Tony at twitter.com/DonTonyD. You have your ever so sexy boys at the Spitball Media program at twitter.com/SpitballMedia. Give B-Show Brian Shaw and John Draper a follow. John Draper and his band Lament have returned, and they can be followed at lament_NYC on Instagram. And if you have any promotional material that you want to be placed on the podcast, if you want to have something that you want on the airwaves, by all means, email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. For any one of our lovely, beautiful friends that we have missed, and we are aware that there are a few, please head on over to Twitter and check out our pinned profile, and we'll be able to provide you with some more premier content for your ears. The Drew Yari Experience can also be reached at twitter.com/D_Y Experience. And we are able to provide you with any further information to more podcasts and creators that you may need to fill your void of content. As always, we really appreciate the time that you've taken to listen to the program today, and we wish the best for you. Take care and love yourself. The outro for today's podcast is a single by the one, the only, the coffee drinker and critical thinker, the Cleric of Chaos. This song is called Southvale Anthem, and it can be heard over on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and more. Email us at the Cheating Death Podcast if you want your music, content, or information shared. Take care, and have a lovely day.